Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone #1 meeting. Today is May the 11th, 2022. It's approximately 2:34 p.m. We're at City Hall Council Chambers. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I appreciate everybody that's here making time for this meeting. Lupita, will you do roll call for us?
Yes. Ms. Goldberg?
She will be excused today.
Okay. Mr. Mia? Mr. Castillo?
Here.
Mr. Navarro?
Present.
Mr. Martinez?
Present.
Mr. Ceballos?
Here.
And Ms. Alexander.
Okay, and I think she's also going to be excused. She did inform us she couldn't accommodate today. And I appreciate you all accommodating me, changing this meeting from yesterday to today. I do appreciate that. Fortunately, it was something that was unplanned, so grateful for you guys making time. All right, with that, we're going to move on to the next item, minutes, approval of minutes for April 12th, 2022. And for the record, we do have a quorum. In your packet, you'll find the draft of the minutes for your review.
Move to approve the minutes of April 12, 2022.
Mr. Navarro moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Castillo. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Bless you.
None. Motion passes. Bless you. All right, we're on to the next item, citizen comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than 2:45 p.m. and can be found here at the chambers, or you can just approach one of us. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to another speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. We still have time for them to sign up. Has anybody signed up to speak?
No, at the moment, we do not have any citizen comments. We still have a few minutes left. I will advise.
All right, thank you very much. Presentation items, no action to be taken on these items. I appreciate everybody that's here on the Able City team. And I see Ramon Chavez with the City Engineering and Joel with CVB. Thank you guys for joining. So this item is really to give us, you're going to see some of the same stuff, but today Able City, Rick and Viviana have worked to prepare a summary with costs associated. So Rick's going to cover that. It's going to relate back to some of the action items that we'll entertain today. But the item reads project status and probable cost presentation and presentation of the preliminary public information website, content and design. Again, no action on this item. Only thing I'll ask the board is to kind of keep an eye for the costs, and there'll be a summary sheet along the way that'll give you a total of where we are. Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the TIRZ board. Again, Rick Solis with Able City. We've been working on kind of trying to organize ourselves as we move forward in this next phase as far as the construction, design and construction of the various projects, and we tried to break it down by phase. So as you'll see in the presentation, we've taken the old presentation and kind of reformatted it so that I think it's easier for everyone to understand. Again, you know, we're talking about the master plan, the project scope. You know, we have Zaragoza Street, Iturbide Street, and San Agustin Street. Those were like the streets that we identified as being the areas of focus for this project. So there's 4 phases that we're going to be looking at. Phase 1 is actually broken up into 2 parts. And the way we tried to treat this is the phases are in order of ease as far as getting them started and getting them completed. So we have phase 1A, which is our murals and wayfinding. In there we have, right now we're just working with allowances for that. We have an allowance for the murals and an allowance for the wayfinding. At the last meeting, there was some engineering costs that were approved, meaning the boundary and improvement surveys and the utility coordination committee. That's already been approved, and I believe the engineer has their contract, and so they're starting the surveying already of these sites.
Great. And for the record, Mr. Miaz joined the meeting Can you zoom on that? Because we don't have it on the screen. It's real hard to see. Can you zoom on the, particularly on the numbers? Is it possible?
I can exit and then, let me see here. Control.
There you go.
Is that
Good
better?
idea for next time to have like hard copies.
Yeah,
so we can-
yeah. So we have, you know, the murals, the wayfinding, the engineering costs as far as the boundary and improvement surveys. Whatever architectural that we'll be doing as part of this would be part of our design guidelines, which we're currently working on, so that's not included in this right now. As you can see on the murals and the wayfinding, we're looking at surveying, utility coordination, any sort of associated site improvements, the site prep for the murals, and any lighting or electrical. And it's the same for the wayfinding. When looking at the design guidelines for suggested mural locations, I believe you guys have already, I'll zoom that out a little bit. I believe you all have already been looking at some of these items. We have identified about 7 or 8 different sites where we could possibly put some murals. Again, these are suggestions. I don't think we've taken any action as far as where to put them. We do have a budget in mind. You know, we have that $30,000 budget. However we can best utilize that is kind of what we'll do. But from our standpoint, it doesn't take much to get a mural started. So it's something that can show some activity downtown. You know, again, some other suggested locations. We do have also a suggested location that is a building that's currently owned by the Laredo Housing Authority. I did speak with Mr. Ceballos earlier today, and I think we definitely don't want to use our public funds on public buildings. So this might be something that we can discuss with the Housing Authority about maybe approaching them.
I think we can plan on doing something like that there, but let the housing authority carry the cost. They would be able to support that. So we can use our funding elsewhere.
So I guess, well, you know, wherever we can kind of get the best bang for the buck and work together with our other local entities, you know, we're certainly looking for those opportunities. As far as wayfinding is concerned, we've already started having a conversation with a company called FSG. They are a environmental designer group, and they specialize in wayfinding and making sure that everything's DOT certified and the right colors. And so we're already sort of engaging them. Again, we have an allowance. We don't know what that's going to cost yet, but I just wanted to kind of bring some of the past elements that we've discussed in, as far as the wayfinding is concerned. You know, we have this little monument sign at the corner here at Victoria and Santa Ursula. You know, they're also going to help us develop a language of signage as far as our downtown is concerned. We'll work with them to kind of design something. Now, all of this stuff still needs to be brought back before the board. We're just kind of giving an example of what we're looking at.
And today, in an action item, dedicate some resources there, right?
Right. So again, some more signage, you know, talking about the historic and business districts. So phase 1B, and I'll zoom in again here. So phase 1B is essentially, we've identified 2 locations that we can start right away. One is at the corner of Zaragoza and Santa Ursula, a monument there. There's an existing monument that's on the Webb County Heritage Site, and it was always intended for that to be kind of a gateway to Zaragoza. And then the other one is for Iturbide. And so we've sort of looked at assigning some costs there. You know, we have some preliminary budget numbers as far as what we think those monuments might cost. The engineering costs are actually included in the other part of their fee. So I just said it's included in the following phases. So that's all included in there. And then there's some additional costs for us to, there's going to be some design work on our part as well as coordination during the construction. We have, this is essentially a picture of what we're talking about. This is the existing monument on this side, and this would be the new monument on the left-hand side.
I think that there's an error typo
Oh, okay.
on the previous,
Oh,
on the cost, because I think our cost for the Zaragoza Street Monument, that was for the repair of one, and on the other one was the construction.
okay, maybe I missed that.
So there's probably a 50 or 60,000 difference.
So
Okay.
what is, Mr.
Discount?
President, what's the cost per monument?
It depends.
It varies,
It varies?
yeah,
Yes.
depending on the monument.
And
type.
our budget is
Yes.
how much?
Well, this is what we're bucketing now.
Yeah.
So what he has as a total, can you zoom in? I know Viviana's alluding to maybe we're short a little bit on one, but
Yeah, right here. So I had the monument sign. So this is just the pillar itself. I forgot that there is some remediation work that might need to be
No,
done.
it's the other way
Oh,
around.
is it the other way around?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the repair, the
Okay.
other one was.
Maybe I just can't see it.
Yeah, just
You're gonna have
can't
that.
see the number.
Okay, I'm not alone? Okay, good. 'cause
are we
I'm-
able to print it while this is going? Do you think we can print the presentation somewhere in one of y'all's offices?
Do you have it on a USB?
Yeah, sorry.
It doesn't go on their computers?
Right, they're having problems. Right.
Oh.
I wish.
Got
They're,
it.
I think they said not till July will it be fixed.
Oh,
So, they're making hard copies.
Thank you. So, but yes, we're just budgeting numbers right now. We're trying to work with your overall budget. And so, we need to add, I think there's some wiggle room there as well.
So that one should be, the Zaragoza is somewhere like 50 when you
well,
include everything?
there's one for repair, and then there was another one for the actual construction of the other side, which I believe, I have those numbers, if you can look them up.
Yeah, I'll double check. I might have missed that.
Okay.
So,
So roughly the monuments is $100,000.
Eat.
yeah.
I
So
have a
right now, they're placeholders.
work of art or something.
Well,
That's-
you know, right now you'll see, so as we,
It'll get bidded, so if our numbers are high, that's great.
yeah, exactly.
But in
Exactly.
today's day,
Yeah.
we seldom are high with our budgets.
So, this is the monument along Iturbide. You know, it's, I don't know how high it is, but it's neon.
That's one
you know.
option.
It's one option, yes, that's one option, that's correct. That we're currently looking at. We do have other options that we've brought back to.
That's what we're gonna vote on in a little bit.
You know, as far as the different styles of signage.
Like the first one.
So, again, just to kind of reiterate, you know, whichever one you all choose, we'll base budgets off of that. And we are working with that signage consultant to try to streamline a lot of that. If we can design a lot of that ourselves and get a regular contractor to build some of these things, as opposed to like a specialized signage contractor, then the costs should be less. Again, I just wanted to bring this one, this is not currently in our scope, but we've talked about it before. It's this entry sign at Convent and Zaragoza where the pedestrian bridge is. You know, we think that's also an important location. Currently, we don't have any budget assigned for it, but we did want to just bring it back in front of you guys to not forget about it. So then, that was phase one. Those are the easy things that we can target. So then phase 2 and 3 and 4 are targeting the individual streets. So phase 2 would be Zaragoza street improvements, and I'll zoom in on this again so you guys can see it a little bit better. So again, Zaragoza Street, we're talking about 2 blocks of Zaragoza. To help mitigate some of these costs, we're trying to target the areas along Zaragoza that make the most sense to do right now. So right now, we're targeting the north side of Zaragoza between Salinas and Flores Street. Again, we'll include surveying, utility coordination, sidewalk improvements, all the things that are listed here.
Rick, and to clarify, correct me if I'm wrong, the surveying will include both sides of the block.
That's correct,
But,
yes, the
but
survey.
the construction drawings as of right now will only do the north side.
So we have some costs here associated with that, as well as their engineering and architectural, so that this phase 2 of the project, we kind of have a budget number of about $473,000 to make all those improvements along Zaragoza Street. And that essentially looks like, you know, this picture here, you know, getting the sidewalks, getting some trees, really improving that north side of the street. There's a lot of ups and downs on that street, so there's certainly, our engineers have their, you know, they have their work ahead of them to make that all work and still be ADA and compliant. Phase number 3 is the San Agustin Street improvements. Now, on this one, it's basically to Tangelo Parkway. We really have no choice there. We have to do both sides of the street because of the way that it's done. We'll have, so both blocks on both sides, from Grant to Lincoln, all of the elements included. This is a little more cost because we're having to do both sides of the street, the engineering costs as well, and then our fee to kind of coordinate and be there during the construction. So this obviously is a little bit higher, 644 for 2 blocks. And that essentially, we're looking at, adding some treatments, lighting, planters, really trying to bring it back so that right now it's not the most ADA friendly to traverse through there. So we're going to take care of all those elements.
Does that include repaving the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, let's see, what else we have here? Okay, so the last phase here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I know that East Street used to be closed just for pedestrian. We opened it, but the way the street is, shouldn't we look at closing that street and make completely pedestrian? So instead of you spending $600,000,
It's certainly something we could consider, yeah, I mean, I think it's whatever, however we want to shape,
Yeah, I mean, I would think that'd have to come back through the council member and for discussion, but if this group wants to elevate it at that level, I don't think that's a bad idea, although from a mobility standpoint, we would be curtailing traffic coming out of that plaza.
but if we want to really develop downtown, a lot of this area for pedestrian friendly, we have to control the traffic.
yeah.
We have to do 1-lane street, that's it, rest of the area widening sidewalk, because otherwise we can do everything. You can't bring pedestrian and traffic together.
Yeah, I think
to
that
control.
you're right, Rhea, in the sense that, by narrowing the streets, if you only have one car, it slows everything down and it makes it much more pedestrian friendly. So I think that's.
Like even in Zaragoza, I mean, the street is, I think is 24, 25 feet. We
Correct.
can close it down, make a 10-feet sidewalk and just have 1 lane.
Yes,
But we're gonna get feedback from property owners about parking, and I don't think here, I don't think in this San Agustin, but for sure Iturbide, possibly Zaragoza for sure, because they do have parking on
yeah, and
at
one
least
thing.
one side.
Yeah, and one thing to point out, because we already had comments, so like on this street here, our original rendering showed no parking along Iturbide, and somebody came and spoke and said, you can't take away all our parking, so we put it back only on one side.
As it is, it's limited.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we take away more.
So,
How about around, how about around the plaza in front of La Posada? If we put back the dive-in parking like it used to be, because the dimensions are there, it used to have dive-in parking, and then they went parallel parking. But on the north side of the plaza, there's enough width, we can put some, and compensate for the loss of some and do it there. I think you also have the same width in front of La Posada Hotel where you can dive in park. And that'll give you more parking spaces around the plaza.
well, that is, go to any downtown, small town, Texas, and that's the way the plazas are. There is that style of parking. So it's something that we could consider. The last phase is the improvements along Iturbide. Here, it's 5 blocks that we're targeting. It was gonna be very expensive to target all 5 blocks, so we've tried to pick and choose where we think we can make the most, I keep saying bang for your buck, right, but that's kind of what we're looking for. So along Iturbide, what we're talking about is along the 800 block, which is from Santa Ursula to San Bernardo, we would do both sides, expand both sidewalks, add parking. From San Bernardo to San Agustin, it may be just one side.
Thank you.
Because the side at Sete Banderas and the parking lot, the sidewalk is actually in really good shape. It doesn't make sense to tear it up and redo it, right? Same thing from San Agustin to Flores. The south side is the side that needs the work. So we're trying to target the areas where we can make it work, and by that, we can reduce costs. Then from Flores to Salinas, those two blocks, there's already been a lot of work done there as far as the ins and outs and the parallel parking, the bus stops, the paving on the sidewalks. A lot of that is really, really nice work that we don't really want to mess with. I think the cost there would be more for additional trees and lighting and those types of things. So by doing that, we're able to reduce that cost a little bit and get us down to about 925,000 for that work. So, you know, this,
So Rick, we are going all the way to Salinas?
yeah, we're able to make that work. So again, you know, parking,
Can you show them this shot that's the 800 block of?
yeah. So this is what it looks like right now, as you
So
can see.
Either way, we have to do two sites on that particular side, because the right side is the north side,
So
and
that's-
you can't walk on that.
Yeah. And so the goal would be to make it look more like this, you know, parking, sidewalk. So this is the summary page that we have. This is really probably where we want to, I'll zoom out now that you all have copies of it. Essentially, you know, we tallied all the phases. We added a contingency of about 10%, but only to the construction, right? And so our total cost right now is, you know, 2,369,000. I do know that there's some other stuff that we probably need to add in that we missed. But that, we're trying to work with the budget numbers that you have right now. And so, I don't know if any, I have one more thing to go over, but I want to leave it here in case you all have any questions.
Can we go back to that sidewalk picture of, that picture on the right, it does, I mean, doesn't even look ADA compliant in any way, shape, or form
Yeah,
completely.
no.
I mean,
There's-
is there
it's a-
monies out there
It's a
to?
2-foot sidewalk, so you couldn't
specific
even
to
get a
ADA?
wheelchair on there.
Well,
That's why I'm saying some area you have to narrow the street.
Yes,
To
absolutely.
have
Big
a,
time.
it's not just ADA, you wanna bring pedestrian, you have to have 8 feet, at least 8 feet or 10 feet sidewalk.
Absolutely.
And, but we,
yeah, so that would be happening on the south side, but on the north side, it would be less than that.
So on the north side, we would leave a 5-foot sidewalk, so there would be a new sidewalk that you could get through there, but it would be mostly for parking on that side. We basically have from fence line to current property line, it's about 32 feet. So we can get a 5-foot sidewalk on the north side, an 8-foot parking aisle, about a 12-foot ailing, and that still leaves about 10 or 11 feet on the south side. So that's what we would propose to do for this block, right? So again, on the summary, you know, we're trying to work with the budget that you all have right now. Go
Only
ahead.
there's that little discrepancy on.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. We'll,
So you probably have to add about 50,000 to that number.
well, that'll put us right at 2.4. So again, does anyone have any questions on this? I just have a few more slides to go through.
The idea on Zaragoza that Ria was saying, it's not, you haven't confirmed that you're gonna put parking on that street. I mean, that's for us to decide still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
All right.
we've talked about it, so I think we have taxis that park on the south side of Zaragoza, by the corner. So there's probably enough room to to leave parking where it's currently at without disrupting it. Since we're not gonna touch the south side, we're only gonna touch the north side.
You're not gonna touch this out, so that sidewalk that we saw there is gonna stay like?
Now, on that particular block, we're gonna do both sides, because we have to.
On this.
All the way
this is
until you
permitted.
get, and then it'll be.
But on
But maybe,
Zaragoza,
maybe on the next block, we only do the north side, you know, because that sidewalk on the south side's in pretty good condition. There's no sense in redoing it all. But again, we're still working through that.
I think, like where Siete Banderas is, I think they've got like an 8-foot sidewalk section,
Yes,
which is for the most part in good shape.
yeah, that's the one on the north side that, where the J.C. Twist building is. It's all broken and it needs work. So just to kind of finish, I did want to just bring back that we are currently looking at the design standards. We're not ready to kind of go into it yet, but I did want to sort of point out, that we're developing based on our guidelines here. We'll be establishing what we want for paving, bike lanes, roadways. Go.
Yeah, I'll let you finish and then
Yeah,
I'll get.
I was gonna say, so on the design standards for the lighting, I do want to point out a couple of things. So we have a lot of this string lighting that hangs from building to building. Obviously, we would need to solicit a partnership with our private partners, right, to do that work. And then the last thing I do want to point out is that whatever we decide, this final lighting program will definitely bring it to the board to look at before we do anything, because I think the lighting is going to be one of those critical elements. Again, just some other ideas that we've already shown in the past: streetscape, benches, even trash cans. We'll be selecting all of that and for y'all approval. That's pretty much it on this presentation. I do have the website to show you guys, but if you'll have any questions on this.
Yeah, so I wanted to get an inkling from the board of their preference on the pavers or that. You obviously saying you don't have a recommendation yet, but what we have by the
Well, I think
the Rio Grande Museum,
This is
I
what-
like that.
Yeah. This.
Yes,
Yes.
that would be our recommendation.
Yeah, well, I like that, I happen to like that.
Not with a cheek lip, but.
Which one? The,
On the
This-
right,
this one.
furthest.
the one that
press-
says
press
concrete
concrete?
sidewalk?
Yes.
It's just concrete, and it's, I think, 3x3 squares.
They just.
They actually work very well.
They just,
press it.
it's all concrete and
Yeah.
they just,
Right.
Yeah. As opposed to like stamped concrete or pavers,
Yes.
which are
it's more economical this way.
absolutely,
And power washing, it's easier.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You all remember we power washed Iturbide years back. It was a nightmare to power wash
Yeah.
the stamped concrete. It really is.
Or even concrete pavers, which is that.
They crack, concrete
They-
pavers,
they
they
pay-
crack.
I just wanted to, let everybody here on the board provide you all some feedback on their
This right
preference. That would be mine.
May I also suggest asphalt paving for the streets instead of the concrete pavers or clay pavers? Now, there are some around the plazas that are existing, and we should keep those, but anything new, I think should be, our recommendation would be asphalt.
Asphalt.
Yeah.
More economical too.
So there's clay around San Agustin.
Right.
And around the plaza, around the Mercado, it's concrete pavers. Unfortunately, when some of the work was redone, they did it with stamped concrete. Eventually, that should be replaced with pavers if we ever get there. This paving system.
This right here,
Right there.
yeah.
So around the San Agustin Plaza, I'm gonna go on a tangent for a minute. Those pavers are not well set since
Right.
the work was done.
And Mr. Chairman, I can tell you, we could not find the bricks. So I did ask utilities to look at the entire street and change it with new bricks. But we can't find those old bricks.
The old ones.
Wow.
So those are smaller size, the newer one are bigger size.
Yeah.
That's why you see, and it is very, very, very expensive because the manual labor, you have to put in bricks. That's why we decided on, when we did the floors, we decided with the stamped concrete, because the cost was outrageous.
It's interesting, those are probably 50 years old already, so.
Yeah.
So,
The thing too with the pavers is that the newer pavers, they're bigger because they're vehicle rated. So they're meant to be able to drive on. A lot of those older pavers they're bricks. And so they don't hold up as well,
so before you move on to the website, I would, impose on you as assistant city manager, the conversation around the plaza, I think, needs to continue, including the one along the tangential walkway or parkway. Maybe we can visit with whoever we need to visit about what we do there. I think the parking does need to be addressed. I don't know if this is the correct board to do it under, but we certainly can support an effort to try to address parking issues.
I think we can. I remember last time we did a traffic study when the outlet mall came in, which is almost 5-6 year old. I think it's time to look at the traffic study again. See some of the street, we can convert it to one way, can narrow it down. And so I think this board can make a recommendation to city manager and city council. So we can have traffic department go look at it, or update the old study with the new traffic data. And based on that, I believe some of the street, we can convert it one-way street.
I don't know enough about the flows there to make a judgment call, but I know we can get to the point where we can make a
Yeah.
recommendation.
And
only time
I
we
do,
notice
Mr.
is
Chairman,
when-
I do have another question, and I guess for our city engineer. Mr. Chavez, I know that was like 10, 15 years ago, we were sued for not complying with ADA. And there was one time, I think city put some money to have some of the sidewalk ADA compliance. I don't know where we are. Did we settle this thing? Because if we want to start doing this, somebody might bring back that one, so we need to just look at it. Because
Yeah.
I know we were sued for ADA compliance in downtown.
Honorable Chairman, members of the commission, Roman Chavez, city engineer. That's something that we can definitely take a look at and see where we're at on that. Because, yeah, the ADA compliance, I mean, there's no question about it. That's gonna have to be reviewed and inspected, so.
And everything we're gonna design is gonna
Sure.
be ADA.
Yes.
So,
But I think there was some promise city made to have some compliance issue on ADA.
So I will put that item on the next agenda for discussion, and I'll check in with the council member about the plaza and the parkway walkway. All right, go ahead with the website.
Yeah, I just want to show you guys, we've been working on a, kind of, it's very basic, but I think that's in keeping with what we had talked about in the last meeting. You know, we have an about page, and obviously this page isn't live, so, you know, it doesn't exist anywhere just yet. You know, it talks about what a TIRZ is, what is TIRZ No.1, you know, gives the boundaries, the board of directors, related documents as far as the ordinances regarding the TIRZ. And then we also have a projects page where you can go and, you know, we've broken it down with the same criteria that we just developed as far as phase 1 and phase 2. So, you know, you can scroll through these images as we, you know, as we talk about these different items. Yeah, I saw that.
Plaza Theater is on there.
Yeah. Zaragoza, you know, again, phase 2, and we're still working through some of these, you know, as far as images, but, and then we could also have like a, you know, little blow up of what it is once you click the picture and go through the different phases. We also have, I think we were saying we're just basically pointing them back to the meeting videos if anyone wanted to watch those. So again, on the contact, we're not sure exactly who this is going to. Is it to us, to you guys, or who's managing
The contact for,
for the TIRZ as far as like?
so again, it would be up to city management to see where they would put the landing page, like where they would place it.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, these are just questions that we just need to,
Yeah.
as we get it prepared to,
Is there a way you can provide the board the link so they can review it in time and give you input?
yeah, we'll figure out a way to do that.
Okay.
Right now, I'm logged in through a different account, so we'll figure out a way to do that.
All right, even if it's passworded while we
Yeah.
finalize it.
Yeah, we can do that.
And,
Or as a
we
PDF?
didn't put it on the agenda, but we will get that on the next one to name the actual domain, like for the board to participate in that. I think, what's the landing right now, or does it have any?
There's no landing, it just exists within wix.com, so. So what we can do also is, what I'd like for you guys to look at this, if there's anything you feel that we're missing or you'd like to see there.
The public engagement piece for me, I mean, I'll give you feedback once I review it more closely, but I want to make sure the public understands that this was a process and it was a long process. And showing some of those images, listing the meetings. I think that'd be important, especially once we get to construction, we're gonna get feedback from property owners, and we need to have a place where so they can understand that this was not just all of a sudden put together, it was a long, drawn-out process.
So do you want to put it as part of the projects, or do you want to?
I think I would probably put a separate tab, that
Separate tab
public
for-
engagement process, and then show when that started. And the other piece is loading up all our minutes. I know it takes time from the beginning, but
Yeah,
we're only gonna do it once we get it done.
correct, and then it's easy, just implement it, so, okay.
But anything that the board would like to see, I mean, feel free to review it and chime in.
But that's pretty much our presentation, if you all have any questions, otherwise we can continue.
Thank you. I think the summary is really gonna help us going forward, because part of me trying to remember numbers, it's easier now with faces and blocks. Like now we can think about how much, pretty much every block is gonna be, every half block is gonna be $250,000. I think that number hasn't quite moved.
Well, it's probably a
Since
little
the
bit more
beginning.
now, but yeah,
Yeah.
not that far off.
Yeah, you keep telling, you remind us, yeah, that's right, yeah. Okay, any questions for Rick or Viviana? Thank you very much for
Thank you,
that.
appreciate it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the action items. Item 6, discussion possible action to approve street monument conceptual designs to initiate construction documents and competitive proposal solicitations. So Rick, actually, if you don't mind, can you show the board the options so we can vote on those? And actually, it's only one we're voting on because.
The other one is just a copy.
Yes.
Hold on. There it is.
Or if you go to, let's see,
It would be page,
page number middle of the set.
It'd be the 4 pictures that you have on this.
it's, it is this one right here.
Yes.
Page 13.
See if we can reach a consensus.
Could I make a little explanation?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one was the very first one that we had done as a first shot. The second one is a play on the Las Vegas sign, the famous Las Vegas sign with the arrow that's long gone, but the picture still exists. These last two are a play on the names on the streets with the picture, because they're all saints and they're all generals, either American or Mexican. Only place in the United States that I have found that to be from a historic point of view. There might be some suburban neighborhood with the same thing, but from a historic point of view, that's. And so we took that as like an opportunity to have a picture of Agustin de Iturbide, and then an explanation would be on the backside of that triangle of what he did, who he is, and, you know. So each one of those are just a play on that.
What about cost? About the same?
They're all gonna cost, probably the Las Vegas interpretation one is probably the least expensive. The Iturbide one, what we don't have animated there, you know, how the lights work and the hat and
And so
all
the
of
hat
that,
would
it's
kind
not
of-
static. So there would be some work on that. And then these last two maybe, maybe, they're probably, these two and the first one are probably the same, approximately the same. You know, basically the materials on this would be laser cut metal with plexiglass, what looks like neon light is really LED neon light, which is a lot less expensive than real neon light. The Iturbide Street one over here would probably, we'd have to work with FSG to find out the cost of some of this being neon and some of it being regular LED. I don't know if they can do that with all LED, but we can try. The second one doesn't have LED.
Yeah, it's
So-
just,
Does anybody want to express any preference?
I like the first one.
I did
That's
too,
the
and
one
I
I
liked
like.
it since they showed it to us many months ago.
Yeah.
But I am open to any of the other ones as well. I like the one furthest to the right as well. Those would be my ranking.
this one.
Orlando, do you have any preferred?
I was looking at the first one, I don't know, the first one I like, I think that's an I-beam, right? It's an angled I-beam?
Yes. Yes.
It's what?
It's angled
it's a
I-beam
steel.
and then you
Yes,
just attach to it. I mean,
yes.
that's pretty sturdy, you know, and it
Yeah.
kind of holds. The cowboy hat? I'm not.
Hey, we can change.
Yeah, you
Oh,
know, but
the
you know,
style.
you had mentioned the generals, like every street has generals, I don't know.
Saint
Then I saw
Anthony.
that star and I thought, well, maybe that star is more, I don't know, I just, but I like that, the I-beam, I could see
You
that
know
as
what, we
being.
can always come back with a different icon at
Top.
the top.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be flat, it can be a three-dimensional piece, and so we can go back and figure out what would be the icon. But the angle and the information on
The
it,
steel on it, the angle, I
the
can, I like.
steel, all of that, that's really, really the,
Mr. Castillo, any thoughts?
I really like the first one, the Iturbide Street. But then again, the last one, on the right, that one, doesn't that sort of what looks like the one on Zaragoza?
Yes, it feeds off of this general's theme.
Yeah.
I would love to see, excuse me, I would love to see some of that general's information throughout our downtown,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think that's part of the,
I think
part
that
of the,
would be cool to have that information out
yeah,
there.
that's part of the package. that
that's what we're
working on.
trying, we're gonna try and do that with the wayfinding signage, the general ones, you know, but, we'll see what we can. We also had some smaller wayfinding pylon, monument signs that you had shown.
Is there a way to add the streets of generals and is that themed to the first somehow?
Sure, we can do something on the side, we can figure something out there, I'm pretty sure. What's strong about that is the angle, and it's
Yeah.
very eye-catching.
It's a big beam.
City of Louisville, Kentucky, has, I think that's, I showed you that sign way back. They have one that's angled and it's very, it has a lot more information on it than that, but it's very powerful. People get drawn to it because it's angled.
And it's simple.
Yes.
I'll tell you one thing, we're not in a, like, you'll be able to see it as you pass it from, like, if you're going into Mexico, but once you get down on Santa Ursula, you know, you're gonna see the top of it, depending on what side of the street you're on, you know? So, that's one thing to consider, you know, seeing it like this all the time in a car, you're not gonna see it. If you're a pedestrian walking there, but there's not a lot of pedestrians right now. But it is eye-catching.
Northbound traffic's gonna turn and see something over there,
Right,
you know.
right,
yes, and that's.
right. And we'll get some heights on it. That's about 60 feet,
60?
well, to the top.
Wow, that's tall.
That looks,
We're gonna need it that
Yeah.
tall.
I thought it was more like
Well, it's to the
Doesn't
very,
look
very
like
top.
35 feet.
Well, okay, we're all supposed to be in that range,
I see.
like to the tip top.
Yeah, to the tip top.
Mr. Mia, do you have any preferred?
My only comment will be, Mr. Chairman, and we see it's easy to build, but we need to build something which doesn't need a lot of maintenance or it doesn't break down in 5 years. Because then you don't have money to put it back again. So I prefer something with concrete or stone, so vandals cannot go and destroy it.
Well, that's why I was looking at that I-beam, because I thought the
It's
I-beam.
pretty hard
Yeah.
to destroy that,
Yeah.
unless you're a car.
If somebody, if they really want it, I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to choose one, because we've been idling on this item.
So
I think there's a general consensus for the one on the left with some thematic changes perhaps. Is that what I'm hearing?
Kind of work off the angled I-beam and see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, does anyone want to make a motion on it?
Sure. I move that we keep the I-beam concept, the tilted I-beam concept, and let Able City work on some designs off of that.
I will second.
I second that motion.
Mr. Martinez will second that motion. Any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for getting us to that point, Able City. Item 7 is discussion with possible action to approve additional scope of work for KCI Technologies to develop construction documents for approved projects, amend their contract accordingly, and other matters incident thereto. And I don't think we're at a point to add additional scope, Mr. Chavez, is that correct, to KCI?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Ramon Chavez, city engineer. At this point, as you recall, and if I may,
Yes.
before you is a list of items based on the fee summary for the proposed scope of KCI. And task 1 and task 2 were approved at the last meeting. If I recall correctly, that contract should be on your desk for signature before the end of the week for those first 2 tasks. After that, we were also directed at that same meeting to proceed with the design of the water and the sewer.
The coordination.
Yes, the coordination, for the actual design. So we've requested a scope for those items from KCI as well. At this time, once the task 1 and task 2, which will take couple of months or in my opinion, maybe around 60 days to get going, then after that, then we'll be able to proceed with the rest of the scope. But that doesn't mean that the board can't take action on these.
Well, and there's gonna be some adjustments to this that
Correct.
were coordinated with KCI, so they'll bring you in the loop.
Yes, and so you are correct. We are waiting for a breakdown
Yes.
of these. And so once that breakdown is received, then we can, at that point, bring it back to the board for additional discussion.
And as I understand, they already are serving, correct? Even though
That's-
they don't have a signed contract?
That's my understanding.
Okay. All right, so the updates for the board are gonna relate to where we took, their proposal included both sides of the block, right? So we're gonna back that out as was described earlier in the presentation. The other item is the architectural. We're gonna back that out initially with the idea that they would procure some landscaping guidelines for the Able City team to work with. But instead of, adding 60,000 on landscaping on their contract, we can add it as we need it in terms of their design. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Yes.
they really don't have a lot of scope on the landscaping. So those are the tweaks that you will see when this comes back as a contract.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for Mr. Chavez. So I'm on the civil included water sewer or no? The 30% design says $65,000.
I don't think it is.
The page you just give out, it says 30% design, civil is 65. And then 60% design is 87.
Based on the original proposal, it did not.
It did not.
No, it did not.
No.
Okay, so my second question is, from 30%, we paying 65,000. From 30% to 65%, we paying additional 87,000. And then from 60 to 100%, we paying additional 73,000? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's the total for 220-some thousand for the entire design.
So it's a $2.5, $3 million job?
We haven't received those estimates.
Okay. I
But that's
think
what
before,
that's what we'll have to be looking
yeah,
at.
before I feel comfortable, we need to have a cost estimate. Because it looks like it's gonna be $3-4 million job. Because if we pay this amount of engineering design,
You're saying the amount you're seeing is for a greater project than even our budget has. That's what you're,
yes. Because if that's the case, we don't have the construction money. Why design something where we don't have
Right.
money?
We don't have.
Which does not include water and sewer.
Yeah.
Right.
well, in our scope, which is sidewalks, I mean, we're really just possibly adjusting inlets, that kind of work, you know, we're not really
Right.
tying in new drainage. Well, it's not new for sure. That's a good point. I think we all have to agree on what that budget is and
Yes.
have KCI agree to it as well.
So we'll wait back for the response on the breakdown, and we can definitely take a look at that and again, bring back a recommendation to this board.
And, I mean, in fairness to them, they haven't seen our Taylor back
Yeah.
budget, right, that we worked on this
Right.
week. So we need to share that with them.
Will do.
But in the meantime, we continue with the survey work.
Correct.
Thank you for those comments. So no action on that item. Item 8, discussion with possible action to enumerate a budget for wayfinding and direct Able City to present a final wayfinding program. So I think obviously they've already shared what that program might look like. And Rick, could you take us back to that slide?
Yes. So, well, do you want the summary or?
Just the wayfinding,
Right here.
which was about $100,000 altogether, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I have a question on that. Is that for the wayfinding, for the wayfinding with the city that we worked on with the city on the streets and all of that?
Yes. Yeah. It's
It's
basically,
not the monument signs, it's not, it's
No.
just the wayfinding.
it's like
I got
all,
it.
all of this stuff.
I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that.
That whole family that you were talking about.
Yeah, and it could, I mean, it could be like street posts, like big street posts with signage. I mean, we haven't really developed the scope per se, but that's kind of the intent.
And I think we're working with Convention and Visitors Bureau to come up with that program. So if there needs to be less or more money, we need to hear that back soon, so before we obligate. But as a placeholder, that's, you know, that's what we would be allocating and we take this action based on that. Can you zoom in?
Yeah,
Mr. Vasquez, does CVB have kind of a concept that they've been playing with or talking about? Just to see if
And
there's
if you
some-
have a budget, we'll take this down to about 30,000.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is Bud Vasquez, the Assistant Director for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So we don't have an actual budget because we would have to do a drawdown from hot tax. So we're, obviously what we're looking, when we initially started this project, we were looking about 7 locations within the downtown area. So what we were working with the committee, with the board, was to work hand in hand where we could put part of it and then depending on what the board wants to do from the other end, and then do a combination of putting both things together. So obviously for us, this is the first time I see the numbers, but I don't know how many wayfinding locations the 100K is giving us, if it's giving us 3, 5, 10, 20, 30. So it's really, what we did is we looked at locations that for us, for visitors, it has to be directing to hotels, has to attractions that will really make sense to use a hot tax. And so that's where, we were kind of working with Able City and trying to get that so we could then figure out, okay, this is gonna give us a cost where it's gonna be 40,000, 30,000, and then we would have to bring it to council because we would have to do a drawdown. So get management first and board, and then from there would be to council, presented to
Yeah,
council.
so Able Cities had been asking us for a number, and we came up, I came up with this thinking that there'd be like $4,000 to $5,000 per a significant
Yeah.
type monument or,
Yeah.
or item.
And the signs, that's what we were looking at. So those signs are what we were looking at. It's just knowing exactly how many, like, the board is gonna, like, from the TIRZ is gonna come out the money from, and then what CBB or, some hot tax could come in and help offset some of the expenses.
But there is criteria in
That
order
is
to hit
correct.
that money, so that's probably something that, I
Yeah.
don't know if you have that information.
Yeah,
but-
it does have to be, that they have attractions, museums, hotels, signage that it's gonna attract, for visitors, basically. So that's why from the map, we did share with Able City the map of locations that we wanted. I think there were about 7 locations. And then from there, it's figuring out, the idea was that the board wanted to do more and put more in the downtown area, so working hand in hand, okay, and so these signs are gonna cost us this amount, then we will come to management and then present it to council. That would be the,
The 100,000, or Rick, the 100,000, how many wayfindings are you
We're still,
estimating?
so we're still working with, the sign people
Mhm.
to try to get a sense of that. We just had a meeting with them on Monday.
Okay.
We're actually having another meeting with them this coming Monday. And I think we'll have a better idea then, sort of what we can get for that amount,
And there's only about 8 locations that the city has identified. So I guess the city can pay for about 8 of the locations, and I think they coincide with some of the areas we want. But if we want to go beyond the 8, this is where I guess the TIRZ can add up and we can do this big wayfinding.
The one thing at least for me, is to get this mobilized soon,
Yeah.
Because
no, and that's, yeah, I completely agree, Chair, Mr. Chair, is that we're trying to do the same thing, because we've been directed by council. So obviously, it's, the good thing with this is that, the engineering cost is gonna save us a little bit more money, because that was a huge expense, so obviously, it's working hand in hand, and, but like Tina mentioned, is that we're very specific concerned, because our funds are very strict on what we can use it for. So as long as it's directed for more tourists and more locals, then obviously we can use that.
you can cover those and then we can add,
That's correct.
supplement with other
Yes,
targets.
yes, that is correct.
Perfect.
So if you guys, once Rick has the cost per, sign, and then depending, because not all of them are gonna be the same sign, so
Right.
one of them is gonna has more information. We would like ideas to where it has a map and kind of pinpoints locations, key locations, attractions and stuff like that. So working with that, and then we could definitely come up and say, we will get management to help us and then go to the council to present that.
Can you join them at the meeting with the designer or
Yeah.
design?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or someone from your team?
definitely.
So we got your initial list of places, and from that, we worked to bring it down.
Okay.
I think it went from 20-something to 8.
Yeah, there was the initial one was like, oh my God, like more than 20. Yeah, 30 around there.
Hey, you gotta wish, you gotta.
But what we did is we condensed them
Yeah.
into signs in
Yeah.
different places.
Yeah.
And the idea is to be as, less is more where science is concerned,
Yeah.
are concerned. So we're still working on trying to make those, and those,
I think this is a healthy number to put there as a commitment and not lose it into other things, because
Yeah.
if we don't placehold it,
Yeah,
it'll get eaten up in construction. Does the board feel comfortable with this number?
Yes.
All right,
Gives them a number to work with, and then they can come back with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not to say that we'll use all of it.
Yeah.
It's something that-
And I think just to clarify, that money doesn't include our monies, right?
Right.
Just
Okay,
TIRZ.
that's just you guys' turn. Okay, perfect.
All right, motion, I'll make a motion that we approve that allocation to wayfinding in the amount of $100,000.
Second.
Any associated engineering design costs. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Navarro seconds. Any additional discussion? There being none of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you. Item 9, discussion and possible action to request the city of Laredo approve and work jointly with the TIRZ No.1 board in preparing and submitting a grant proposal to the U.S. Economic Development Administration for construction site improvements on Salinas Avenue. So I put this item on the agenda. This was a topic during planning that we talked about, and we thought that a phase 2 for our projects would take us back to the other part of downtown, Salinas, which is a big thoroughfare going into now the outlet shops and CBB, but also a pedestrian thoroughfare for getting to the bridge. And we talked about pursuing this, a grant through the EDA. So I wanted to make, have us request, I know some of you are city staffers, but have it officially request that from the city manager to see if we can entertain an application for this purpose. And if the city is hopefully able to join us and we can decide if we need somebody to help, whether it be an expert in this grant proposal or whether we can put it all together, as a team. How do you all feel about that? So this would be more of the same. They're basically looking at the corridor from the plaza, Jarvis, all the way down to where CBB is located, Water Street, right? Water Street.
Way down the, our address is 101 Salinas.
Oh, on Salinas, but in water, right?
Yeah, it's water, but because of the entrance to the outlet shops, it doesn't, our address is 101, so it literally finishes there in Salinas.
So this is just a motion to request if the city would.
Participation with us. So I guess one of the options could be for the city to say, well, no, they procure a consultant that can help them with it, right? So that, again, I want to have that conversation with an official action to generate that response back, so we can get it programmed.
Okay.
And, because it's gonna take a while to compete for it.
Yes, and I had actually invited also, in anticipation of this motion, I did invite Arnold Lozano from our Economic Development Department, just so that he can answer any questions on, if there was any additional questions on the EDA request or process. I know the city right now has already submitted and been awarded an EDA grant for another project, so.
Which project was that?
Extension phase 2.
Okay.
So we've already, the city has, and I just wanted to give you all that
That's important.
backup information, because I know that does matter. There is some other criteria on EDA grants that we would have to check off the box. And I know, but I don't know if we want to ask any of those questions as of right now, or if it was just, if you just want to stick to the motion of requesting city manager to entertain that request.
I would like to.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if you might just don't target EDA, just ask us to look at a different other options.
That's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
don't put
So,
EDA.
Yeah,
And that was gonna be,
yeah.
Yes.
Have other prospects potentially to assist downtown, or?
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Arnold Lozano for the record, Economic Development. As far as prospects, you mean further projects for downtown that we are looking to fund? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Out of our-
Particularly
yeah, out of
for
our office, we don't.
walkability, yes, and infrastructure.
Yeah, out of economic development, we don't. Right now, we've already submitted last year for EDA grant for the Springfield extension for phase number 2. We're in the process of closing that out and getting the award letter and getting that project rolling. We're also working on the World Trade Bridge expansion through the RAISE grant, which we already submitted last month, and now we're working through Mega and Infra. But those are the only projects that our office is currently working out of right now.
We did submitted a $4 million for Plaza Theater, no?
No, I didn't submit
Yeah,
that.
we submitted as part of the Congressman Coyer's request. So
Okay,
there
yeah,
was-
with the
there was
community
some-
project.
Yeah, the community project. So that's what I'm saying. Because Congressman comes time to time and say, hey, do you guys have a project as a community project? So we can just ask management or the city council, so we can look at it, whatever
So-
is available, and we can submit it.
Yeah, and, I mean, so everybody knows, it's like, not only did we talk about it, but I want to have a response for other downtown merchants, stakeholders about what we're doing on the other part of downtown. And I think we can start mobilizing that effort, so we actually have displayed some effort to try to help the other part of downtown, not just, this side. I'm just trying to strategically get ahead, because we're gonna get, and in fairness to that area, we really should work on it. And I agree, maybe the item needs to be expanded to other grant opportunities. I know with EDA, public facilities are, including, like a plaza and others would be eligible, improvements in and around those spaces.
And EDA wants to see job creation, job. If your project's gonna create jobs, or we can prove it on paper on how we're gonna create those jobs, they're all for it.
Yeah, but I also know that if you already got one in that cycle, you're probably not gonna get another one in that cycle, so, we know, and I know that, I've been around that agency too, so.
But what we're looking at as part of the transport, the infrastructure bill, there will be some other parts of money like walkability, all those things. So we'll explore, and whatever we find is fits, maybe we'll.
Sounds like.
The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is ADA, or are they two separate things, you know?
Infrastructure and Jobs Act, that's an entire big pot of money, and then it gets divvied down into different federal agencies. And for the longest time, EDA's been zeroed out of money. We got lucky on this last go-round. COVID funds actually helped us get funded for that second round. They reopened it, we resubmitted, and we got considered for that one. So EDA is not out of the question. We can always contact our regional rep and consult with him. They're gonna wanna hear that anyway, since he's the director for the region. He's the one that's gonna take our grant and vouch for it, before the board, so it'd be important to talk to him too.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna make the motion, hopefully I get the second, that we request from city management an opportunity to submit, or the opportunity to submit grant proposals to EDA or any other entity where there may be an opportunity to help develop our downtown infrastructure and surface improvements.
That include, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, for interrupting, that includes, underground, water,
No,
just surface.
surface improvements.
I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Martinez seconds. Any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Arnoldo. I think that covers, discussion and possible, one last item, 10, discussion and possible action regarding invoices submitted by Able City. There was one that came in.
We did submit an invoice.
You want to put it on the
this-
screen?
I don't have it. Do you have it?
No, we don't have it. It was submitted when we were already preparing to come over.
Okay, I'm gonna pull it up, and if the board wants to vote on it by way of my reading it, we can do that. Okay, we have an invoice dated May 11th, 2022, invoice 1996 for the period April 12th through May 11th, 2022, from Able City for the amount of $3,215. And this relates to preparing and attending required meetings, pre-development and programming services. So this is part of their administration hourly cost. Again, invoice number 1959. Let me correct this. It's billing for period January 14th through April 12th, 2022.
No,
That's a long time
No,
for
no.
$3,000.
No,
Thank
it's
you
not-
so much.
no.
Is that
No,
not correct one?
it's from April 12th to May 11th.
Chairman, and you all
What was
could,
attached?
y'all can wait for the next meeting because we didn't even get a chance to
review it.
evaluate it and review it based on our other invoices, so I might just
That's
suggest
fine.
that we wait.
Okay,
But
we'll
it's
wait.
for a month, right?
Yes,
Yes,
we've been
it's fine.
asking them to submit monthly, yes.
All right, so what would be, so they know, what date would you want them to submit? So
I would say at least,
2 weeks prior to the
yeah,
meeting?
a week before the meeting.
So,
We usually request it a week before.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in this
It's
case,
just-
this is a
it's
month in
just on a
advance.
monthly, yeah, it's hard to do that if you want, that's fine.
I mean, we can always
It's
be a
just-
month behind, that's fine. If you're submitting it on a monthly basis to us, we can always present you like a month behind. That's also the possibility. I think we got to a point that we weren't receiving, we were receiving
Well,
3-4 months, yeah.
Because there wasn't a lot of work done.
Yes,
but-
So the one I read out was for the last meeting, which we approved, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I mean, we could also, we could always be kind of a month behind, that's okay. But, yeah, getting it the day of, it's kind of hard for us to,
That was my mistake.
yeah.
All right,
But,
so we
I
won't have
would-
any action on this
I
item.
just don't, I don't know how to, like, calculate all of the, in 3 weeks. A lot of the work is done.
You'll just be running 1 month behind, if
Yeah,
that's
we
okay.
can just
That's
run it a
fine,
month
that's
behind,
fine.
yeah.
That's perfect.
All
I
right.
think that would work better.
So-
Mr. Chairman, can we motion to
works.
approve it based on, motion to approve based on, the final, review by
That's what you'd like
staff?
to do, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
You
second
could put a
that.
max on it.
Well,
Well-
the invoice is for 3,000 to 50, so.
That's correct, the amount is correct? You don't know.
I honestly didn't even look at it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they
you want
reviewed
to-
it.
No, then,
Okay, no, we're not gonna take any action on the item, it'll come back at the next meeting. So just for the board, there are partnership agreements that I think we need to talk through and would probably involve legal in helping us when we're gonna put a meter or lights on private property, is to have an instrument form that can get developed.
Okay.
And if Able City has a form that we could circulate that from other cities, that would be great. If not, we'll need to start from scratch, but.
The city has used some agreements because I think we have presented some murals on private.
The Abrazo
Businesses.
mural is like that. You
Correct.
mentioned that already.
Not one in the downtown, one of the downtown ones. So I could speak to legal. I know there was different departments that handled that agreement, but I can reach out to them and we can have them ready.
Yes, we need to be ready, because that's gonna come up.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, no, the city does have some, a template they've
Template?
used.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Navarro, seconded by Mr. Castillo. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
We are adjourned at 3:45. Thank you very much, everyone.